The creatures you fell in love with were never meant to be loved. Before romantasy turned them into soulmates, kings, and forbidden lovers, they were warnings. Stories parents whispered at night, legends carved into stone, creatures people genuinely believed walked the world. Tonight, we're uncovering the real origins of three romantasy icons and how love rewrote monsters into myths. Long before dragons were powerful allies or bonded mates, they were apocalyptic symbols. In ancient China, dragons were cosmic forces that controlled floods, droughts, and the very tides of fortune. They weren't inherently evil, but they weren't kind either. They were forces of nature. If a dragon was angry, entire villages could be swept away by a flood. If it was pleased, a harvest could flourish. People didn't seek to bond with them. They sought to appease them, offering sacrifices and prayers to avoid their wrath. They were the embodiment of nature's awesome and terrifying power, something to be respected from a great distance. Meanwhile, in medieval Europe, dragons were chaos incarnate. They were the ultimate villains. They guarded cursed gold that drove men to madness. They breathed fire that scorched the earth, leaving it barren and poisoned. And heroes, they didn't fall in love with them, they died trying to kill them. Beowulf, St. George, these legends weren't romances. They were survival stories. For people back then, dragons were a very real explanation for things they couldn't understand. A sudden wildfire, a dragon, a plague sweeping through a town, a dragon's poisonous breath, an earthquake, a dragon stirring beneath the earth. They were the living embodiment of disaster. Romantasy didn't just give dragons a personality. It transformed them from a symbol of judgment into a symbol of destiny. It took a creature that represented the destruction of humanity and turned it into a creature that could choose a human partner, fall in love, and even save the world. It's a fascinating shift from something that destroys humanity to something that chooses it. Now, let's talk about the Fae. They might just be the most romanticized creatures in fantasy today, the beautiful, ethereal rulers of magical courts. But historically, they were absolutely terrifying. In Celtic folklore, the fair folk were anything but gentle or fair. They were capricious, dangerous, and held a deep-seated grudge against humanity. They kidnapped humans, especially beautiful young men and women, dragging them into their realm for amusement. They stole babies from their cribs and left behind sickly, demonic replacements, known as changelings. They were known to punish the slightest curiosity with eternal imprisonment or madness. Entering the Fae realm wasn't an adventure. It was a death sentence. Folklore was filled with warnings about their world. Time flowed differently. A person might spend what feels like one night dancing at a Fae party, only to return to the human world and find that 100 years have passed. Their friends, their family, their entire life gone. The original stories served as guidebooks for survival. Never thank the Fae, because it puts you in their debt. Never accept their food or gifts, because it traps you in their world forever. And above all, never ever say their true names aloud, lest you draw their unwanted and deadly attention. Modern romantasy has recast them as seductive high lords, tragic lovers, and misunderstood warriors fighting for their people. But the original folklore is clear. Their beauty was a mask for profound cruelty. Romance didn't tame the Fae. In many ways, it erased their very nature. Finally, we have unicorns. And let's be clear, unicorns were never cute. Forget the sparkling rainbow-maned creatures from cartoons. In ancient texts, like those from the Greek physician Ctesias, unicorns were described as wild, aggressive animals, native to India. They were incredibly fast, impossible to capture, and known to be extremely violent. They were powerful, elusive creatures with a single, magnificent horn believed to hold incredible power. That horn could neutralize any poison and purify corrupted water, making it one of the most valuable objects in the world. But this purity wasn't about sweetness. It was about divine judgment. The myth evolved so that only a pure person, typically a maiden, could approach one. But this wasn't because unicorns were gentle and drawn to innocence. It was because they were so aggressive that they would kill anyone else who dared get close. The pure person wasn't a friend, they were bait. For centuries, kings and nobles hunted for unicorn horns, known as alicorns, believing they would grant them protection from assassination by poison. Entire wars and political schemes were fueled by the hunt for these mythical horns. Unicorns didn't represent gentle love. They represented untouchable, absolute power and purity that could not be tainted. Today, we see them as symbols of innocence and gentle magic. But originally, they were symbols of raw, deadly, and sacred power. So, Why did these monsters become lovers? Why did we trade terror for romance? The answer is simple. Our fears evolved. Ancient people feared the world around them. They feared nature's unpredictability, the flood, the plague, the wildfire. Their monsters were external threats that could wipe them out in an instant. Modern people, on the other hand, often fear what's inside. We fear loneliness, being misunderstood, being powerless in a complicated world. Romantasy doesn't ask, what if these creatures kill us? It asks a fundamentally different question. What if they see us? What if they understand us? These stories turn ancient, external terror into modern, emotional fantasy. They give us danger, but without the real-world consequences. They give us access to immense power. Without the punishment, love became the ultimate fantasy, a way to connect with and control the untamable forces of the world. It's a way to look at the monster and see not a threat, but a soulmate. Romantasy didn't invent these creatures. It reclaimed them for a new generation with new anxieties. It took the dragon, the fae, and the unicorn and gave them a new purpose. But somewhere beneath the romance, the love stories, and the happily ever afters, the original tales are still there. The warnings, the fear, the ancient truths waiting to be remembered. So, the real question I have for you is this. Which of these creatures do you think was the most terrifying? Before love softened it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into myth and folklore.